what Sandy here I think is asking is like, what if they say I don't remember? I don't know what it was. So again, this is one of those things where I'm not sure if I covered it in one of the talks before. This now comes down to you as a practitioner, Sandy, where you're going to have to really look at how do I improve my ability to either ask the right questions so that it will trigger them, or how do I create an environment that allows them to feel safe to share maybe something that's more intimate in terms of what they were dealing with at that time. Okay, because I really have to say that for me, I've been very lucky in the last 9 years of using this, that I find that I'm able to really, it's very rare for me to not help somebody find what the conflict is. And so I don't know if it's because I just have I create a space that makes them feel safe to open up, because I like to think that sometimes when people say I don't know, yes, they can really not know, but that could be that they don't remember because it's something they're trying to protect themselves from, right? So you have to be cognizant of that maybe something did happen when they were 8 that was somewhat traumatic that they buried over there. They know it's there, but they don't really want to talk about it. So that's one potential reason that it's a protective mechanism. Another thing is that they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel safe, right? The environment doesn't feel conducive for them to open up. They just met you. They don't really know what you're about. You're asking some personal questions. And so that might be a reason why they're feeling like, I don't know. And another one could just be that you're just not stimulating the thought process, right? Like you're maybe not asking the right question to get them to think about that. Because for me, when somebody says they don't know or they don't remember, I have to gauge, like, are they being defensive? They just don't feel comfortable talking about it right now, which then I have to know that that's where they are, so I don't necessarily push it. Or is it literally in their mind they can't remember? Then if they can't, then I go into benchmarks. Like, do you remember having this when you were in elementary school? Do you remember having it when you were in high school? Do you remember having this symptom before you were married, before you had kids? And I start really breaking down the time frame, because I want them to go at, they identified that they definitely had it in high school, but they didn't have it in elementary school. So we know it's in high school, and then we try to break it down, like, was it in the beginning of high school, the end of high school? And then I look at when they get there, like, let's say they say, well, it was probably in the beginning, grade 9 or 10. Then I say, okay, if you think back to that time, what do you recall, like what pops in your head as something that you were dealing with regarding family, regarding friends, regarding school, right? And I really go into the different areas that probably are the only things important, or what's important to someone at that time in their life. And I just ask, like, what comes up? So a lot of times I find it's less an intellectual process, it's more like a feeling, like something just comes to the surface when I say those things. And I feel like for me, because of my own constellations, and I'm more of a talker, so a lot of the times, just to let you know how it works in my room, I'm sharing stories, or I'm talking. So it's not your typical sort of therapist session where there's a pencil and a pen and, like, tell me how you're feeling, and I just sit there and write. I'm doing a lot of talking. And so I find that either it makes people feel comfortable that I'm talking, or that I'm talking about something that pops in my head that's somewhat relevant to what they're dealing with. And then it stimulates a thought for them. Okay, so that's just my own personal style. But I have to be honest, like, it's very rare that I get people, when I spend that 90 minutes with them, to say that we couldn't figure it out. It has happened, though, and like I said, a lot of times it's because maybe they don't want to go there, or I haven't created a safe enough space for them because I'm rushing, or I'm not in a good headspace at that moment. Does that sort of make sense? Do you see how that's a good question? Because that's a common thing. People are going to say, well, what if they don't remember? And I almost find that in the beginning, when I first started applying GNAM, I almost always thought that they're not going to remember. So maybe that's why I do it the way I do it, where I'm already trying to process, like, how am I going to get them to look back to that period? And that's why I think about, like, okay, do you remember the weather? Was it in the winter? Was it in this? Was it before you had kids? Was it before you were married? Was it when you had your first job? Like, we sort of give them different ideas, and then I give examples. Like, was there anything, like, maybe your first boyfriend? Was there anything going on, like your parents? Did a grandparent die? Was there a divorce? Was there? And so I give examples, and sometimes that triggers it as well.